Welcome to Building from Scratch with Yoande. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Hi everyone, thank you for joining. This is Building from Scratch. My name is Yoande, and I'm here with a lovely guest. He's actually a friend and someone I also respect. I'm here with Kelvin. Kelvin is a tech entrepreneur and community builder. That's how I describe him. He's the co-founder of Bumpa, and he is also the co-founder of Consonance. So I think I'll start with just Kelvin. Do you want to do a little intro about yourself? Just like 2 minutes.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Kelvin. As we mentioned, I am an entrepreneur, an innovator. I I studied mechanical engineering in school and spent the past 10 to 12 years building tech, building communities, also Consonance Tech Quest and CC Hub. I've been involved in running a lot of programs in the Nigerian tech space. And now I have spent past 3 years building Bumper, which is a digital platform for supporting small business owners in a bit to use technology to manage and grow their businesses. That's just a little bit about me.
All right, thanks, Kelvin. So I literally started building from scratch officially this year, and for me, one of the things that motivated me was I get to meet amazing people like you, and we get to have like private conversations around how you started, your journey, your background, and I felt like it would be more beneficial to people in future and even now to even hear some of the amazing things I get or I'm privileged to hear. And that's also why I said, you know what, let's have it as a live space and then turn it into a podcast. So I think the first question that I'd have for you, Kelvin, and don't worry, this is just like us gisting, no pressure. It's not like a regular podcast where they ask you a lot of serious questions. Almost anything goes here. I think first curious question was in your growing up in your early days, what city did you spend most of your time before you became a teenager? Just out of curiosity, like where did you grow up?
I grew up in Surulere,
Okay.
Surulere in Lagos State. So that's where I went to. Almost all my formative years was there, from primary to secondary school. Um, was in Surulere, Lagos.
Okay. You see, I didn't know that. For some reason, I thought you lived outside Lagos and you grew up outside Lagos. And we've been friends for a while. Okay. So early.
Is it my accent? You feel like it's very boutique.
Where? I mean, you're Nigerian. Where in Nigeria? Like,
I'm from Anambra State.
oh, okay, okay. For some reason, I just thought. So my first impression of you that I remember was you tweeting about meeting some ecosystem people and they'd really helped your journey. I think you had said something around A giving you a laptop and Anedi helping or OO helping. And obviously these are people that are more prominent in the Nigerian space, not outside Nigeria. And so I think I already knew you then, but I was like, who is this guy that is very grateful, you know, based on the little things that he's tweeting about or he's talking about. But I know we'll get there. I think first question is curious. What did you study? I mean, I'd done some research for this interview, and I know that you went to university. What did you study in university, and what influenced that?
So growing up, I liked cars, right? I just wanted to build my own cars, and so I decided to study mechanical engineering at OAU. So that's what I did. I studied mechanical engineering at OAU. It's just unfortunate that, um, you know, I don't necessarily know the practical part about mechanical engineering. We did not reach that side when they were teaching me. So I say that if me and you are driving now and the car stops, we'll both call mechanical because, but then that's what I studied in school.
Okay,
It was
nice.
influenced majorly by just the the cars that I wanted to
Love of
build.
cars.
Yes, and just my love for cars. I used to say that I wanted to build a flying car when I was very much younger.
Okay. So, at what point, because obviously, majorly, we know you as a community builder, and we also know you as an entrepreneur, now tech entrepreneur. At what point did things start? I mean, it's easy to look at things backwards and it makes more sense now. But then, at what point did you start having a convergence of, okay, I want to try out something other than what I'm studying in school?
So I don't think that there was a point that this happened. I think that my journey is one cohesive, um, interesting journey because literally from when I was much younger, my mom used to work at Computer Village. Um, so both my parents were business owners, and every Saturday, from JSS2 to XS3, I was going to Computer Village almost every Saturday and every holidays nonstop. And so it exposed me a lot to, that entire world. So I used to buy phones and sell in school. Even when I got to school, the university, my first business there was just selling phone accessories, and then I went to selling tablets, which is how I paid my school fees. But um, it was. I don't think that there was a point where I figured that I was not going to do mechanical engineering. I think like every single at every single point, there was just something that I figured that I was always doing. I was always busy doing something, right? And it had a lot to do with business. So in school, we started a company called, we built a product called Voice App, myself and my friends. And it was popular back then in school. And, you know, I was doing this from my second year in school, 200 level till 500 level. So I was studying mechanical engineering and still doing this. Um, I'm not even sure if there was a decision that I made, because while I was in school, I started Consonance. So Consonance is like 7 years now. So I started Consonance while in school because people wanted to learn about how to build the tech that we built back then, apps and all. So I put them in a WhatsApp group and it became a community. I did not even plan to build it. And before you know it, I was a community builder. So I would say like there was no fixed point or any realization that made me feel like, hey, I want to do community or I wanted to go into programs or I was just doing things as they came to me and taking advantage of every opportunity I had at the time.
Okay, so let's do a bit of voice app. What was voice app and why did you decide voice? Why not sound? Why not leg? Why not hand?
Okay, so is not actually VOICE. It is VOISS. So so let me tell you why
Interesting.
we even built
Exactly.
that first.
Okay.
So first is that when I was in secondary school, as I was finishing school, I bought a laptop early and I was learning, my beacon typing and trying to learn to code, because I was learning to code because I saw To Go, right? To Go was very popular. I don't know if you remember To Go.
Of course I do.
hmm To Go was,
I'm young though. I'm young, but I know to go.
we were both young. To Go was very popular back then. I was reading something and I saw that, hey, To Go had 20 million, they were celebrating 20 million users and 17 million of them were from Nigeria, and then they were not the founders were not even, Nigerians. I was like, we should have our own version. I read about it. They said, they built it with Python, and that's how I started basically coding. That's literally what took me into the world of coding. It was not any other thing, but just to go. Me wanting to build my own. So I had designed my own. I just wanted to copy and paste it. The way I was trying to do it was, I was going to do, instead of, how they had ranking, professionals, amateur, my own was going to be soldiers and stuff like, how they have, sergeants, so it was just in my mind to build that. And so when I got into school, I saw a gap, which was in the fact that there was not a lot of information. There was not a lot of, there's not a lot of ways you could get information. So we would go to class. You would stay in class for 30 minutes before you realize that the lecturer was not going to come to class. Then everybody's now walking away and going back. Lecturers could not send the information to you. If you wanted to get information from school, OAU was very big, or it's still very big. You would have to walk to DSA, that's the Students, Division of Student Affairs, and then go to their notice board for you to get information, right? And this is very far from, the hostels. And I felt like that was just not efficient, right? If they could put it on a platform, then everybody, could get the information, right? We also were still, if class reps at the time would go print out past questions or just materials, school materials, and then they will print it out and they're selling it. Well, we had computers or phones that we could read because they were selling those things for, high amount, like big, exorbitant prices. And I was just like, if we could have a platform, we could put all of these things, then, we would have information. So, based on the fact that because I started learning to code, I already had a community back then. We were called iLab. I had my friends, Perfect, Sao, Timmy, we were all learning to code. So we just basically started to build voice app. It was Voice of Informed Social Students. The name does not make sense now, but it was very long. Voice of Informed Social Student. That was voice, then app. And so we started building that, which was a place to get students, bring the school in, bring all the stakeholders on campus together so that information is shared, easily. So yeah, that's literally the,
Yeah. Thank God I asked because I was thinking it was like voice.
yeah.
Okay, so before we go to consonants and bumper, so what happened to voice? What, like, did you shut it down? Did you sell it? Did it, in quote, fail forward? What happened?
It's very weird because we actually just let it die. We just shut it down. This was in 500 level. So the boys I did it with we're kind of very serious students, right? And we noticed, so for me especially, like, I was very close to a first class. So I thought that if I focused in school, my 500 level, I'd make it. So I did the maths, and the maths, it worked out in my head how if I get my, at least, so number of A's, I was going to make a first class. And so, we just left it and said we're going to get back to it later. Um, and then, that was it. I did not make the first class, by the way. I did not make it. I finished with like close to 4.4, but it was not a first class. That was sad, but that's how that
Interesting.
one left. We did not go back to it because we were just all involved in a lot of different things, and yeah, nobody picked it up again.
Okay, okay, we'll come back to it. So let's go to consonants. So I know that you said you had just started it as a WhatsApp group where people could come together. Did you start it alone? And then, how were the first few milestones? So what do I mean? Did you fund it yourself, or you didn't need funding? Did you get partners? how did it move from, a WhatsApp group to the next platform, or is it still on the WhatsApp? I know that I'm part of the newsletter, so I'm just saying, like, what happened in the like early days of Consonance? Like, did you have someone with you? What was governance like, or did you just feel like, we're just winging it and then it was just evolving?
It was just a lot of winging it. I don't think that there was it was not, in my opinion, a way for me to start an organization, right? I just wanted to help out because at this time we were now in, I think, 500 level. And then we had all this 100 level, 200 level that, we're using voice app, and they were just like, oh, I want to know how to build this. And so, I, I wanted to start training people. So we I just said, you know what? I have people that have answers to the questions. Instead of me to try to answer all, I could not even answer all because some of them had questions on Android, back end. I was not coding any of those. And so I put my friends in a group. And then anybody that asks me a question, I just say, you know what? Come and ask it on the group. And then when you ask the question on the group, I would go and bust someone that could answer that question, and they will have to respond on the group. And before you know it, that group was now like very much engaged, and everybody was sort of learning. I started by myself. I remember that I was just lying down on the chair, and that's where I created it. Also, I forgot to add this. What that time was when WhatsApp was now popular. And let me add this. WhatsApp is also the reason why we did not go back to voice app.
I figured.
Because it, like, all of us were now, almost all the classes, they now had their own WhatsApp group. They were sharing materials in their class group. Some of them even had lecturers send information via WhatsApp. So it was just, it was a no-brainer. That's actually one of the biggest reasons we did not go back to it. We did not feel like we should be competing with WhatsApp. So yes. So yeah, it was just the WhatsApp group, and then we started trying to do things together. So there's something called mountaineering in OAU because there are mountains in OAU, and so people would form a group, and then they climb the mountain together, go play music, drink punch, dance on the mountain. Some people go there to pray, all of those kind of things. So we decided to organize one, and that's like the first event. It was just people that were interested in tech, and all of us were just there. I was still just looking at the pictures of that thing like 2 days ago, right? The very first one. And then we organized a bigger event, and that's where I met Aniedi and then a lot of other things. Yeah, so that's literally how it started. It was, even at that time, it was still not an organization to me. It was just a way to ensure that more people are being trained. We started doing consonance trainings. So we were training people in three things majorly: in coding, in electrical, and in mechanical. So I did Autodex. That's designing machines or architecture. Like I could do it at the time. I don't even remember last time I did that thing. But so we're training people on that. Also electrical stuff, using breadboards to build out small things. That was something I was skilled in also. And so we were just training people. I got different people, and we were training people on those things, and we were paying 5,000 naira for, I think, a month. Yeah. So that one was paid, but the community was not paid.
Okay, good. And so the reason why I ask is a lot of people see things down the line and feel like, oh, everything started so great, so organized, so straightforward. And sometimes people don't know that, sometimes you're actually winging it. And then I know that, on social media, when people say, oh, they don't know what they're doing, people actually think they're lying, because it's only when you look back that you're like, oh, this is what we're doing. By that time, you probably didn't know half of what you were doing. Now, Consonance is 7 years down the line. What would you say? Because like voice app, obviously got shut down. What would you say are the reasons or the top reasons why Consonance still exists today, and how far has Consonance grown?
Uh, okay. So just for
Apart from the fact that you are passionate about it.
I think that's the only thing that is keeping it right now because we're not, I'm not very focused on consonants because I'm trying to run Bumper fully, right? So I am not as focused on it. I think most people that will even work with me on it are also part time. We're just doing it as a form of a way to give back. So the newsletters or the communities, they are basically just, we don't even try to run programs right now. Like, there's no active program that we're running, except trying to support some organizations in digital transformation. But so I would say, um, consonance for me is also very long term, right? It's like, hey, this is something that would always just be a part of me, something that I will keep on doing. Now we have, we evolved it to, before we were focused on talent, so people that were interested in tech. But now it's now focused on innovators strictly. So it means that for you to be a part, you have to have an active project you're working on. So I basically want to support people like me now with consonance. And so we're just trying to figure out if you have an active project you're working on, you can join. You have access to other people that are building something. There are conversations that people are having, questions, sessions that they're bringing different people. I'm even very open. Like, it's the only place that I know that I break down even my own things. Like, I show them, like, hey, this is what I use for my deck. This is my deck in the beginning. This is how it has this is my numbers now. Like, I feel like we are very open there just because, I think that we're all like similar, right? People trying to, solve problems, and that's the realest that you can get it. It's not an event. It's not a nice event that we organize, just us coming to talk. So we have maybe 200 people now that I'm focused on, innovators in this thing. But if you talk about the tech people in general, that's maybe about 5,000. Um, yeah, I don't think that there's much to it now, right? Because we're not, I would not say that it's like, it's not top of mind right now. We just have small things that we're doing low key just to still give back to the community.
Alright, thanks. So let me go to Bumper. I know a couple of people would have asked you how Bumper started, and you probably would have, answered and refined. But please, can you be kind enough to tell us how you conceptualize Bumper and how everything started? I have tougher questions, but I want to start with this very nice. I know that's why a lot of people probably listen to this to understand your journey. I mean, obviously, me, I was a bit fortunate in some ways, but like, what, like, for example, I know that there was a CC hub in your chapter, and you know, I know that at some point, you now decided to do Bumper. I don't know if you can just summarize and walk us through like that process of, you know what, I think I can build another startup, or I can do this startup thing.
Huh. Okay, so I think with voice app, I knew that I wanted to do startup, but I realized that I needed I needed to do other things also, right? And so because I was doing community, I started building communities, GDG Lagos, TechQuest, Ingressive community. Like, I know that, I've touched a lot of communities in the past, even Flutterwave's first community. But I started running programs with communities after a while. So with TechQuest, I started running programs through community, right? It was a way to now do more with the community. So we at TechQuest at the time, TechQuest was training young kids in STEM education. So from things like robotics, coding, game design, all of those kind of things. And so what I did was to build build out a community. Actually, there's still a Twitter post that I made. I was asking if people wanted to volunteer, and I had like thousands of people say that they want to volunteer. And then I, through TechQuest, I reached out to Google, and they gave me like $8,000 to run a program. And so I basically went to these states. I traveled to the states and I trained people, groups of people that were interested, in training young kids, so they were just going to be volunteering. And I think, when was this? This was maybe 2018. Yeah, yeah, I think 2018. Um, and so at that time, I started going into more programs, and that's like, oh, I know how to build communities, and now what can I do with the community? And that's, doing programs, scaling, things that you would normally do. So so TechQuest at the time would normally train 120 people per year. But because I did it with TechQuest, we trained, I think, about 5,000 people that same year, right, in 1 year. We wrote a paper about it, myself and Dr. Itoro, and Charles Emembolu, who was my boss at the time, wrote a paper on it, went to Thailand to present. Like, it was like a whole thing, because it was the first time that, we were now using community to run that kind of program. So how it worked was that the volunteers, the people that said they were interested, they go to schools to give their time. So they will go to a secondary school and say, "Hey, I want to train you, your people in STEM," right? Because a lot of people at this time, even till now, to be honest, a lot of young people are growing up without this knowledge. They don't even still know anything about coding, STEM education. Like, it's still like something that is only for rich kids, because the most schools today, I can tell you, many of them do not have STEM. I think it's beginning to change, but we are still very much far behind. I'm sure many people have seen like videos of how it is in China, for instance. You go to China, and then very small kids they already understand. They've gone so far. So, and that's where our limitation would always come, because the next generation that we think that, will make things a lot better are actually not being trained, and literally we would not be able to, who are we going to blame? Now, are we going to still be blaming the government, because it's on us to be able to arm the next generation. And so that was why, that was done. And the hope is that those kind of things can scale. I'm seeing, people like She Code Africa do things like that now, and and it's really great, and it's really great work. Yeah, so I would say that's like um, the, the genesis, of, you know, going into Bumper, right? So should I just continue, or do you want me to pause? It's looking
Yeah.
long.
No, I know. I feel like I unlocked the philosophical Kelvin today. Okay, so like, okay, let's fast forward to,
Just call Bumper.
yeah, call
Okay.
bumper. Like, okay, so you've done communities. One of the things that I know, obviously, firsthand was that, you also worked with entrepreneurs at CC Hub and helped them, almost like fine tune their market readiness, product market fit, you got exposed to a lot of that, not just, oh, I've done entrepreneurship in theory, so in practice, but I've also like figured out the gaps. And was that when you felt, okay, you know what? I'm much more equipped, or was it just like aligning in a way that you just found yourself like with an idea and bumper?
I think if we're talking about the origin of Bumper now, it would be with my co-founder. We were working together at Host Cabal, and we were serving developers at the time. This was 2018, 20, I think early 2018. We were serving developers at the time, and what we were doing was helping people host their websites online. So first is that you have to already, be a developer, you've built your websites, but you needed hosting, right? But we're just helping you to host. Now, the problem, which I don't know today, we could call it, somebody else would say that was a big problem because we did marketing, and the people that we're reaching out to, or the people that were reaching back to us, were entrepreneurs, right? So remember, we're targeting developers. So a result of failed marketing, you can say. But then when these entrepreneurs were reaching out to us, they were saying, "Oh yes, I want to host my website." And we're like, "Okay, yes. Which hosting service do you want? Do you want virtual private?" They're like, "I don't know." "Okay, where's your website?" "I don't have one." And we're like, "What do you want us to do?" And then the question came, "Can't you build it?" And then we decided that, okay, yeah, we can actually build this. We can actually build websites for people. And so we started building these websites, one by one. So somebody says, "Hey, I want a website." We would actually sit down and build. Most people, no, most of those entrepreneurs, we realized that what they were asking for were pretty similar. And we started figuring out, is there a way we could just, build out an engine that could spin off these websites for them by themselves without us doing the same work, because they literally just needed the same thing, right? Instead of us to be building custom for each person. And so we left the work that we were doing, and we started building down this engine. We were talking to a lot of the customers at the time, trying to figure out, and we built out an engine. Remember, the company at the time was called Host Cabal, so we called this Sales Cabal. This is Sales Cabal is still the name of the company today. It's Sales Cabal Incorporated in the US, Sales Cabal Limited Nigeria. So, we built out that engine, and then a couple of people used it, but, I think, I'm not sure what we did not get right there, but then it was not supposed to be a company. It was just like this project that we're doing as part of another company. And so we left it, and then I went to TechQuest, and I went to CC Hub, and the rest. But then during the lockdown, I think everybody remembers COVID-19 2020 lockdown. Businesses were not online, everybody was offline. Everybody could not go to their physical stores, and so people started, you know, my co-founder TJ just reached out to me one day, said, "Let's meet." And then he said, "Hey, remember that thing that we built that time in 2018? I think, this is the best time to spin it up again, and then so that people can now use it to get websites and sell online." And so we did I said, "Okay, that's obviously it's not a problem. We could just spin that up." We spun it up. I reached out to Okpe Awo. Okpe was the founder of Hugo Host, Jobberman, reached out to him and showed him the thing worked fast. It was real, almost instant. You would get a website. He loved it, and he shared it with the people at Hugo Host, that's customers of Hugo's, and immediately, I think the first day we got like 700 signups. By the next day we had 1,000, and then it now became interesting. And he gave us money. He basically put the first check in, and then that's how it became a thing. I think it's good to point out in this story that, I don't think at any point, even before then, I was planning on building a startup, right? Or I had in mind to do it. It's just like in 2018, where we saw an opportunity to solve for entrepreneurs, and we did it. And so we had something. By 2020, environmental conditions, made it possible provided an opportunity for us to release that thing that we built back then, and we did it. The network I had with Okpe helped in getting a little bit of distribution, and we just took advantage of it. And then before you knew it, I think at some point then when I was now trying to raise a round, then they said I had to go full time, and then that's how I left. So I stayed in City Hub while we were doing it. Until we were ready to go full time in 2021. And so that's literally the how it came to be, and the story behind Bumper.
Okay, thanks, Kelvin. Thank you. You answered some of my questions. So good that you stopped at raising. So here is Kelvin, great network. Ope has given you your first check. Obviously, I don't think you raised before. And now it's time for you to like take it seriously and raise for Bumper. What was that experience like? And what do you wish you knew back then? I know you were lucky because I disclose I'm close to Kelvin. And obviously I took a bet on Kelvin. But what was it like from your own view? You've never raised before. Things are moving fast. It's COVID period. A lot of people are writing checks, but you still like didn't know a lot of stuff.
I think one thing that helped a lot was the fact that I was in City Hub, right? My role at CC Hub was programs and portfolio management. So I actually was supporting startups already, and I was meeting a lot of startups. Like I had to have like you almost every startup that CC Hub invested in, I had to be having one-on-ones with them, doing checkups, so I had access to a lot of information about the startup space. I was also very involved in, fundraising. Even the CC Hub Syndicate, I worked directly on it with, Victoria Fabumi, who is also my investor today. So I, in most of the programs I was doing at CC Hub, I would have to reach out to a lot of investors and then, and let them know that, oh, we have all of the startups that, that you can, to come for our demo day. And so I think that helped a lot because that gave me a lot of the experience, the knowledge that I needed even, when I was going to raise for in my own startup. Uh, um, I think that if I did not have that, obviously it was going to be a lot tougher. Some of the things that I think the people that are around me at the time were also very helpful, right? Opeya, who I already mentioned, he wrote the first check, and he was just there to guide us through everything, safe, this thing. Then I also, had, spoke with people like who also wrote me check, so I just had people that I was always constantly speaking to, which I still do to today. I think that that's one thing that is very, people take, lightly, it's like the people that you can have around you can be like the biggest push for me. They are my support system, because me, I did not have enough information about the space that I was going to. And so, always speaking about it and talking to them about it were a big plus. So if anybody is going through that space, I would say ensure that you are always communicating. Some people will think like, hey, you know what? I don't want to share my ideas, or I don't want to talk too much. I want to go and do my thing, and then, or I don't want someone to feel like they helped me. Me, I'm I don't have problem with anybody helping me. Oh, please, I will tell everybody in the world that you are the one that's helping me. I don't even have that problem, But people feel like they need to prove something to themselves, for some reason, and and that's fine for them. But I think if you're a startup founder, you need to be able to take all the help that you can get, right? From anywhere. Um, and I think that would really help. So if I was going to do it again, I would definitely still go the route of, speaking to a lot of people, at the time that could help. Even if they were not giving me money, I still ensured that I was speaking to them.
Okay, that's good. And I know I'm doubling down on this raising one more time. So if you had all the help and it wasn't that hard, then what was hard? What parts were hard for you? Or
that I
just
that I said I
I,
said that I said I did not, that I had help does not mean that it was not hard now. Like
yeah. No,
I know.
because so I promise. So I always promise on the podcast that we'll like talk like real, like we'll not just say, oh, we just went and we raised and everything was successful, because in reality that's not what happens. I know
Yeah.
that. I mean, obviously, I'm privileged to know that you raised two rounds in succession. From my own end, and obviously out of privilege, I feel like one of the things that really helped from where obviously I was standing is you were able to leverage on extending the credibility of people that are close to you. So a lot of young people don't build credibility early enough that people can extend their own credibility for. And I think that that's one of the things that you did well. I'm not saying that you're perfect or, you're flawless, but I think from a very, even before you got to where you needed their help, I think that you already kind of like invested and built your own credibility. So it was easier for them to extend their credibility to you. But then obviously, no matter how supportive people are, I guess there will be some hard parts. What was hard for you, or was it just perfect? And if it was perfect, then it's fine.
Oh no, I think the entire process of even trying to get money from someone, is difficult, and I don't think that there's anything that's going to change that, right? Because there's a lot of conversations that you would have to have, a lot of no's that you would get. I think it. I would say the easy part was maybe Okpe already giving us a check, which was the I think a vote of confidence. Okpe is known in the space, a serial entrepreneur. I think that was really good that we had that, because when we started speaking to investors, when we wanted to raise, that was now a whole, like when we wanted to raise proper, there was a lot of different kind of conversations happening where people wanted a lot of different things. People wanted different kind of valuations. I did not get money because of a lot of stringent, should I say, rules that some of the monies were supposed to come with. Again, I'll say that, the way, how I was able to not even fall for some of those things was also because of, having people like Okwe, there that, I could also run all of those things, through him. So I would say the difficult thing is just in constantly selling. I know going back, I went back to do projection. I did not even know the kind of projection I was just doing projection. I was just trying to do for, updating decks, just because every single person I was speaking to wanted different things or wanted to see, something else. And so, but I would say it was not as difficult. Like the first raise was not as difficult as our seed round, right? The first raise, was mostly family and friends, just like you said, when I was going to raise from someone like OO did not ask me for my deck, right? Um, as I mentioned to him that I was going to do something, and he said, okay, I'm going to put in money. And I think it just works with what you said about the credibility part. I had already been working with OO for, I think, 3 years. And this was volunteer role. Like I was just supporting in his work, right? Same thing I did for E, and I was not collecting anything. The thing you mentioned about E buying me a laptop, it was just him feeling like he needed to give me back something for the work that I was there. I was helping him in recruitment, because I had access to the community at the time. And so, and I was not collecting money from it. So I had given value, right? And I had shown that I could, deliver in the work that I was giving, no matter the work that it was going to be. And so they also extended that, kind of, trust, in what I was doing also. So I would say I wanted to just add that because, I don't want to sound like, that first time was very difficult, compared to, not that it was not difficult, but compared to the seed round, that one now feels like, that's like, is easy stuff because, it was people that it was, you just had to be having a lot of the conversation. I think it can also be a numbers game. Ensuring that you're talking to a lot of people, ensuring that you're even putting it back to back, and then you're getting different kind of things to support your mission. So different kind of things can be, on one end is the numbers. The growth was also very good, right? Showing the numbers on one side. In another side, you're showing the potential partnerships that could be possible. In another side, you're showing the credibility from other people that were coming in already in the round. I think all of those things actually play a role. Sometimes it's not just one thing that would be able to play a role in a race, especially at that in the early stages.
Okay, thanks. And so I mean, I think one of the top hardest things that people always talk about is like hiring a team. For you, did you get team members before you raised? How were you able to convince them? And what is one factor or one characteristic that you were looking for when you were assembling like maybe your first 5 or first 10 hires? I know you're a lean team still, but back then, what was it?
Hmm. So I think we were just looking for people that were as scrappy as we were. People that just, I don't know. I call it hungry, but it's not in the literal sense of um hunger, but like you wanted to tinker with stuff. You wanted to. So we were just basically finding people like us. I remember, we had our first two hires, the first person that was going to build the mobile app and the person that was going to design it. And even if we're not physical, we did not have an office, which we started remotely. We were always just finding ways to just go to one place, go to this person's house. That's how we came up with the name. That's how we came up with this. We're just, so I would say like it was just trying to find people that were smart and were able to build out things. So you're already skilled in what you're doing, but then the level of dedication that I think that we needed was different. We also did not get a lot of senior people in the beginning. I think um, this part can be a little bit tough, right? It's a little bit dicey, right? So we started with a lot of young people, you know, a lot of young people. I remember that even till now, um, my PM, my PM at Bumper now, started with us as she used to be my assistant, then became the customer support, and then and has just been growing through all of it. Um, it was just young people that were either still in school or just finished university. In that way, that was how we kept our bond really low, right? So obviously you were already, top of your school or your class in terms of your skill level. So I know we still have students till today, right? One of our, I think two students just finished now. Maybe that's the last of the students we have. But our community manager, was a student that just finished. So she's been with Bumper for 3 years now. So she started early with us, but as a student. Same thing with the person that designed or edits videos for us. Students just finished. So I think that we have this. I don't know. I don't know if it's an advantage, but we were able to get young people, or we still try to get young people that, were able to, train and, that are open to learning new things and learning new ways to do things. I think it served as an advantage, for us in the early stages, and I think it's still serving an advantage till now. So I think that's like, well, if I'm thinking about the first hires, I'll say that is like the mindset that we went into it. We did not have money. Before we raised, we had just two people. And even after raising, we try to ensure that we did not increase our burn, and so we went for mostly students and people that are just finishing school. So our first team is literally made up of that. Like, I think even first 7 to 10 people were students or just finished people that just finished school.
Interesting. I didn't know that. So like, okay, so obviously everything has advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah.
Advantage is born is low, they're scrappy, they're happy to jump on problems. What do you have to like navigate through as a challenge based on taking
You
that
have to
jump?
be involved in everything. Oh. You have to be involved in everything. So it's not as easy as just saying, "Hey, go handle this," and then you just let it go as if it's gonna be done. No, it's gonna take time for them to, because most of them at the time had not done anything like what they were doing before or handling anything at that level before, and so it took just being very much involved in almost everything, right? It's only now that we're trying to, because people are now grown and trained, and they now experience. You're now like, oh yeah, you can trust them. You can now trust people with things, and then you don't have to look too much. But in the beginning, you have to be involved in almost everything, which I can also call an advantage for me, because now I'm very skilled in almost everything that is needed to start a startup, from building the products, marketing, doing the growth, operations. I don't even have an operations person, even till now, and I'm just trying to hire that role right now. Right, I was both CEO and COO, so everything had been actually going through me, and also my co-founder. So I think that's like disadvantage for the organization, but maybe can also be seen as an advantage as a learning opportunity. It gives you an opportunity to understand everything. Yeah.
Okay. And for Bumpa's journey, so apart from obviously the point where you meet with Okwe and, you have like 700 users first day and then Okwe invest. Do you remember or recall any time in the early days where you were like, okay, yes, we're onto something, apart from that point where you're like, okay, you know what? We never imagined that this would happen, but this happened and I think we're onto something.
In the very early days.
Well, as early as you want. Not now that you're everywhere.
uh, I would say so I think one thing that we were also really good at was building good relationships with our customers. Like, I have customers today that started that email that Opera sent back then. I have a customer that are still with Bumper today from that email, right? And this email I'm saying was sent in 2020. We had not even launched. We did not even have the name Bumper yet. It was just when it was still a project, right? And so we were able to build, like, we were spending time a lot visiting customers. I still do that here today, visiting our customers. And so we were able to build good relationships that I think that helped shape the product. Because I don't know if you realize this, but then everything that we were doing at the time, was based off of a fact. The fact was, hey, there's COVID. People could not go outside to work. People needed to go online. People need website, right? Remember, after like a year or in 18 months, all of those things changed, right? People were actually now outside. And so, like, if we were too stuck on, what we were doing and why we were doing it at the time, and we did not even, expand our vision or mission, like, we would have actually just died with that entire thing, right? Because our entire cell when we started was just, hey, now you can, now you're, you're not going out, for your business. Now you can now start selling online. Websites, we realize is that as I think everybody knows now, it's like, hey, websites is not the end. It's just a means to an end. And so for many people that you give website to, if you give someone a website and they did not do work with it, that's, run ads, share it with their community, is as good as not even having one, right? Because like nobody's still going to go there to buy products. So we needed to evolve. And the good thing was, because we were working directly with the customers, like, we were very closely knitted with the customers. We had WhatsApp groups with customers. We were able to, at the time, learn about the business a lot deeper and see problems that we could solve, deeper problems that we could solve for them that, stood the test of time, even when, the environmental, or economic changes, what we're experiencing, changed. It was not a problem for us because we had built that thing. So I would say, what one thing, things that stood out for me at the beginning would be, the relationship that we had with the customers, right? And that's where I knew that we were onto something. The fact that if anything happened to us, some businesses would not run, right? They could not function, right? They could not even start their day, right? And that to me was like the part where I was like, hey, we need to get our shit together. We need to, yes, like if we only just keep on serving these customers and we continue to expand like this, we're good. Like you don't necessarily need any other thing, but to know that, because of you, businesses are running. Because of you, people are going to feed. Because of you, people are going to employ other people. And that to me was really, I would say, really impactful.
Yeah. Okay, nice. And so a lot of people say entrepreneurship is very hard, it's a roller coaster, you can lose your mind. Do you, I know you do, but do you feel that way, and how are you navigating that? Especially as a Nigerian, operating in Nigeria. For you, like, how do you how do you encourage other people to still do this crazy entrepreneurship? That's if you feel like it's crazy, and then how do you navigate on your own? Like, what do you do to be able to like stay sane?
I think the people that I respect so much are entrepreneurs. I think it's only when you're an entrepreneur, the respect you have for other entrepreneurs is a little bit different. Um, so either they are startup founders or they are the business owners that we actually support. All of us are still entrepreneurs, and so like seeing everything that every entrepreneur is going through, it is crazy, and I think it takes only crazy people to do that crazy work, right? But when I talk to my friends that are also entrepreneurs, like we ask ourselves one question. We said, like, what would you rather be doing, right? And every single time we ask that question, we're like, there's nothing, right? Because even if this comes with all of the ups, the downs, the frustrations, the non-stop work, you just keep going at it. It's a lot exciting for someone like me, right? Again, I grew up with entrepreneurs in my house. Like my dad and my mom were both business owners. I had been doing this for a very, like that's literally the only thing that I know how to do at this point, right? To just wake up and I'm looking for problems to solve. Um, so I would say it is difficult as everybody say, like this is difficult. And I think like if you can find the silver lining there and you figure out that, hey, this thing is exciting for you to continue on, and I think you should go for it and you should stick with it, right? Because sticking with it is a different thing. It's easy to start, but then sticking with it is now where no matter what is, I know how many times that we have run out of money. Um, I think twice.
Interesting. Okay. Thank God it's you that said it too. Thank God it's you that said it. So we're going to go there. But continue.
So like the first time, like I know that like because I was working and we were just again that's why it was good that we were also very lean because like with my salary I could cover the salaries of the other people that were paying in the company at the time in the early days, and it was just like you know so how that can be where everybody's trying to, oh, you want to build your life, you want to buy new things and stuff, and you are trying to use your own money to pay another person's salary. So, money you collect from salary from doing work. You're trying to carry it and give another person because they are also doing work for you, and it's like it's crazy. I still do that till today. Even consonants, like consonants, I found consonants personally, right? It's like all the people working in consonants, I'm personally paying their salaries, and if it's not interesting, if it's not fun, like if you're not excited about it, like this, I think that there's no need, because you would literally just stop at some point, right? And that's why I see that anybody that has become an entrepreneur and they just start, they actually don't stop. Even if the company that they're building stops, they will start another thing just because they're already used to that kind of. I think it's a lifestyle, yeah. So it is as crazy as they say.
Okay. So you've almost run out of money twice. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. No, so sometimes like I think for me it's just to have candid conversations where we're not necessarily like sugarcoating a lot of things because I feel like a lot of people sugarcoat things, and sometimes when people ask me, I say, entrepreneurship is like being an athlete. Like you see athletes, they get injured, they go through recovery, they try to be high performance, but they show us everything. Unlike entrepreneurship, where people just see, oh,
Mm.
I'm a CEO and it looks cool and it's nice and you can put it
Oh,
on
looks
a
cool
business card.
always.
Exactly. It always looks cool always. But then there's so many things that's happening for true entrepreneurs. And I'm like, conversations like this, I don't want to be like, oh, everything is always great, Bumper is good. So for me, I think for you, I know you've touched on almost running out of money. Was there any other point where you were like, oh my God, I think I'm about to lose my mind? And what happened?
How are you sure? I'm not trying. I'm not already losing my mind right now.
Maybe this is therapy now. Maybe that then we will all help and advise.
So I think it's even a constant feeling. Like to be honest, like the high and lows. Like I think sometimes you feel like the highs, then there's the lows. I think sometimes you have high and low together. Like you're very excited about the future, but you're also like almost. Actually, that Omo and the side can say everything that needs to be said.
I,
Like it is, I think that there is, hmm, there's a lot of information, right, that comes to you as an entrepreneur. Information like, hey, the data that you're seeing, or conversation with investors, conversation with your team, conversation with customers, conversation with, or you're seeing things like your competition, you're seeing, your, counterparts in other markets, you're seeing, like, there's so many information, and each of these pieces of information, right, actually does something to your own psyche,
true.
right? And it's something that we don't necessarily always consider, right? Because it always feels like we need the information. There's no how you will stop yourself from getting that information because you have to get it. But then this information always changes something about, either how you think about the level that you are in. Like, so for instance, I remember the time that, we had not even raised our seed round at the time, and then we just saw Softcom. I like Softcom, and then I just saw they released something exactly like Bumper. Jesus, oh Jesus! It was called Quick Sell, right? I was like, hey, Jesus. See, to be honest, like, there's, I don't know how to start explaining all of these things. Let me name. Actually, I don't want to put my name in this time, right? There's a time. Should I name? This is
You can
recorded.
describe if you don't want to name. You can just
There's a
describe.
big okay. There's a big fintech company, Unicorn, that offered my entire team salary higher than their this thing, and went to our group, infiltrated our group, and texted most of my customers to tell them Unicorn. I can't name. I will not name names just
No,
because I will tell you in the DM. But like, when you see that kind of thing, on one end you're like, customer full everywhere now. Let's all calm down. Like, team is everywhere. Like, what is your plan when you offer my entire team? Like, this person, everybody was reached as to by the same company, and it's like, hey, you just start realizing that, you're not even playing a fair, you're not playing a fair, in a fair, this thing like this. And those kind of experiences, you know, they're crazy. They're crazy. And like, when you get that kind of information as an entrepreneur, like how do you react? What does that do to you? So I don't know that anything prepared me for that kind of thing, right?
sure.
I don't think that anything will prepare me for the new things that I will still experience. I'm sure that there will still be more. There's like, you just go into it with that kind of mindset that, hey, no matter what it is, it's a problem, you will solve it. I know, I think you'll see entrepreneurs that they're, that maybe their investors are even fighting with them. That one's another battle. Or you see that some of them entrepreneurs that like half of their team can just leave, and then where do you go from that? Like, you know, so I don't think I want to experience some of those hard things, but I think it's sort of like in the job description, and that's why I don't think like everybody can actually be an entrepreneur, right? Because it can actually be tough. I think if I think through it, there's a lot of these points that I have seen. Either you're trying to run out of money, either you're dealing with somebody that want to scam you. You are dealing with like a lot of different things, and I think all of those things will just become, learning points, things that you would, grow thick skin on, um, from.
Sure, sure. Thanks, Kelvin, for being so candid. I normally leave some minutes for people that want to ask questions. So if you want to ask a question, you can raise your hand or request the mic. Because I think we've spent a little over an hour, and I think I just have like two more questions for Kelvin. So please, if you have a question, please request the mic, or you can just type it if you want and tag me. So Kelvin, final two questions. How you feeling though? I hope I've not made you talk too much.
Oh, no, no, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling excited. Like,
Okay.
I'm
So
working on my 2025 plans, and it's
and
looking
is all right, cool.
good.
In terms of um the culture of the team and your leadership style, if you had to describe the culture in your company, how would you describe it? Like, what would you say? Would be like if someone said, "Oh, people that work at Bumper are 1, 2, 3, or the experience 1, 2, 3." How would you describe it? And if you're talking on mute, okay.
Hmm. How would I describe it? I think like the there are a few things when we think about our values, like there are a few things that we hold dear. I think the first one is usually ownership. Anybody that you see in Bumper, right, are people that can own things, like people that you can say, hey, do this, and then they can own it entirely, right? It's sort of like the only way that we believe that remote work can still happen when you have people that can own things, right? And by the way, we are actually still remote since that beginning time, right? And so we had to design it into our culture that everybody is very big on ownership. So if there's anything that would let anybody let you go in in the company, is because you're not owning stuff, right? So that's like one big characteristics. I think like learning is a very big part of for us. We're playing in a space that is really interesting. It's interesting because um, we're bringing out new things, but obviously there are a lot of things that have happened in the country or in the space that are not necessarily new, and so we're big on learning, right? So the kind of things that we will say is that you are either you are you either get the result or you learn. Like there's no other way. We don't consider anything a failure if there's learning involved, right? And we say this because we understand how much experiments that we have to do. Like for instance, one of the things that we have been experimenting with is subscription. Everybody knows, hey, Nigerians they don't like to pay subscription, but we are doing subscription, right? And we have thousands of people that are, paying subscription today. But we did not get here just like that. Like there's so much experiments that we had to do. Something that you realize about our subscription is that we don't have monthly subscription. we don't do monthly, right? It's an experiment, that we have. We have doubled our subscription, like a few months ago, right? Like we have gone through a lot of things that we would just consider that, hey, for us to achieve our goal, we either do something, but we either take that action that would help us achieve that goal, or we would learn why we should not do that thing again, or how better to do it. But if anything, we must do something. We're not the people that will just stay and sit on the sideline or wait for someone to figure it out and then we go copy. If anything, we're going to be leading the space, in terms of taking the action that needs to be taken, for us to achieve the goals or results that we need to achieve. So that's like another key thing, I would say I would just hold on to those two. But we have a few of those things that makes us, Bumper and the people that are in Bumper. That those are the things that like characteristics that, you would see across all of us.
Nice. Funniest thing, I think I've spoke to like 5 people now, and I think 4 out of 5 people have said ownership, as part of things they look out for or things that they feel their company embodies. So it's funny that, or it's interesting that you also say that. Next question is, what excites you most about the future of African tech? And what role do you see yourself shaping it or contributing?
The future
That's
of
we
it.
are, that's we are excited.
Eh?
I said that's we are excited.
Oh no, I think it's really exciting, especially when you see the work that has been that has happened. If you are like me and you've been in the space for a long time and see all of the changes and all how it has evolved, you can only be excited because of how far that we have come, and then looking forward to like where we're going to. Like I think the major thing is being excited about the people, right? Um you know we as a people now, actually Nigerian tech, right? We're literally almost everywhere now, right? In every organization that you can name, right? And that's in every country that you can name. And why that is very interesting is because of the learnings that can come back into the space, right? And as I mentioned earlier, it's like there's a lot of trainings that are happening now, communities that have like it's now a normal thing to see a lot of community. I think some people recently were complaining about tech events or tech communities that had their many, and I'm like, you don't want to be in a place where there's none, right? Because those kind of things, they spur conversations, they spur interest, and they get people excited about, tech and getting a lot of people. And we are now even seeing it even from the government, with Bosun Tijani, the minister, with the 3MTT program and trying to ensure that there are a lot more technical talents and all of those things. Um, in the short term, it just feels like, hey, there's a lot of things going on. But in the long term, what it means is that there's a high interest in tech. Even the person that you say, oh, this person may not go and, this one may not build an app, but they are now interested. They know enough to get their kids interested in tech, right? And that's what we're not seeing in all of those things. It's like they know enough to get their kids to get to talk about tech with their parents, to talk about tech um, with their neighbors. And that's all we need. Well, not all, but that's literally what we need to get the ball rolling and to get the ecosystem where we need it to be. Because the only other country that is like this is actually China. Maybe not the only, but based on my own knowledge, right? It's like, China too is very much like this, where everybody's, tech, 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 tech. A lot of other countries are not like that, and you would see it in, their own workforce waning. They don't have enough tech talent. But I don't think that, now we're not necessarily lacking tech talent. We are now exporting it. I'm just excited to see what the future looks like 5 years down the road. What would that look like for us? And I think that that's exciting, because it's not just about exporting tech talents, or it's also about the solutions that we will start building, right? A lot of younger people are now building tech. So in Consonance, I see a lot of people building very interesting stuff, right? Hopefully I get the opportunity to talk more about them and showcase the work that they're doing. But I think that's where we want to be, where people are always building and people are excited about building, just because they believe that they want to solve problems, they want to make money, or they want to do things, or get a purpose in their life.
Okay, that's good, and it's so funny that your community building is also intersecting with developing more people and talent. So thank you too for contributing. I think last question. Um, is there any question you thought that I should have asked, or you thought that I would ask that I didn't ask? And what's the question? And you have to tell the truth.
I don't. The funny. I do not necessarily think about it as like, hey, here are the set of questions I think that will be asked in a situation like this. It's actually interesting, because I think, like, before I started this, I was like, hey, another conversation that me and I don't necessarily like to have conversations like that anymore, like events and speaking this thing. But
Exactly.
it was surprising, because you took it to a different, you brought up different conversations that I don't even think that I've had in any conversation. Because before, it always seemed like they were like just the same thing. But it touched a lot about, from the beginning. And I think, like, if anybody that is listening, in their early stages, I think that they would see a lot more from it. Now I'm interested into even listening to the other ones that you've had already,
Yeah.
just because I feel like, the earlier stages is usually where, you know, you get to see the, the grit, the passion,
Exactly.
you get to see the real people,
Exactly.
not when, there's
Exactly.
now money and then there's a lot of people, you don't even know who is doing what, but at the earlier stages, you shall know that if you put one effort, you see the output. It's one to
Yeah.
one. It's not hidden by
Mm,
money. It's not hidden by press, PR, nothing. It's just put the effort, see the results.
exactly. Okay. Thank you for the kind words. For me, this is also early. Like I said, I just started this thing. Yeah. And I'm also taking a bet on myself and also the people that I'm interviewing that they'll be there in the future and we'll have all this to be able to reference and listen to. I'm like, oh yeah, Kelvin spoke about that. And yes, Kelvin was able to share this. So thank you very much. I don't think anybody has any questions today. Maybe they're all shy, but thank you so, so much, Kelvin. I know how busy you are and I know how swamped you are at the moment. So thank you for taking our time to speak. Thank you for everybody that joined. You guys make it more fun. Just seeing that I'm not alone in the room. It feels like, when you watch all those like Ellen or Oprah and there are people in the audience and, but you're just having an intimate conversation. That's how it feels. And
Mm.
thank you for supporting us all through. Thank you so, so much. Everybody have a nice evening or night wherever you are. Kelvin, thank you
Thank you.
so, so much once again. And God bless everybody. Good night. Thank you for listening to Building from Scratch. We hope you follow us and subscribe and watch out for our next episode.